For great ideas and practical tools you can start using tomorrow to grow your business and separate you from the competition, you've come to the right place. If you're into B2B marketing and sales, then welcome to the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast. With over 60 and counting total years in the trenches of businesses small and large, they have a plethora of knowledge and experience that generate you more leads, capture more clients, ring up more sales. Well, doggone it, just make you more money. How about that? Always thought-provoking, yet dubiously entertaining. Please welcome to their respective microphones across 3 time zones, your co-ringmasters, the Dave Loomis, and not the rock star, Steve Miller.
Okay. Hey, everybody, this is Steve Miller.
And the Dave Loomis.
And the Dave Loomis, that's right. Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad, and the T, capital H, capital E, Dave Loomis, and we are the Orange Twins.
We are.
We're a pair of Fanta sodas is what we are. That's reaching that.
Sure.
So anyway, and welcome to another episode of the B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast, which we are now pushing hundreds of people have been listening to our podcast and a few, watching some of the videos that are on my YouTube channel. And thank you very much for everybody for joining us. So we only have a little over 20 minutes to chat about the topics that we think are really important to you guys. We want to give you good stuff, good information, good knowledge, good perspective from our years of experience. And today we're going to talk about something that I kind of have a little beef with, but just a little one. Okay. Because last time we talked about personas or personas or avatars or whatever you want to call them. And we kind of started to get into the ABM part of that. So ABM, which I've always said that it stands for account-based marketing, but if you go on the internet, it says like account-based management or something like that. But I don't think it's management.
I think it's marketing. We're biased, but I think it's marketing.
Yeah, because that's exactly what we're talking about. So and all right, how would you explain ABM to somebody?
I would say it's a strategy of targeting specific accounts and the people within those accounts.
And I think that is a really precise way of putting it. I think that's really, really good. And it's a little bit of a twist on what you would just generally call the general marketing approach, companies take, where they kind of just go out. I mean, they might have a target market out there of an industry or something like that, and then they run advertising, or they go on social media or something like that, and they're talking kind of to a broad audience of somebody in a particular industry, for example, and then hoping that somebody will respond to them. While ABM tends to be a much more of a laser beam targeted approach, where when you say you're looking for the companies, basically what you're doing is you're saying we're going to go after the companies that we specifically want to go to. Right?
Exactly. And the way that you determine whether that's a feasible strategy for you is, I think you have to look at your business strategy first and say, who are you targeting? What is your segmentation strategy for your whatever you're selling, product, service, what have you? And if one of your segments has enough identifiable companies, then there's no reason why you shouldn't at least think about, if not activate, some sort of ABM strategy. And it's been called lots of different things. This is not new, right? Obviously, people have been targeting companies for eons.
I was doing
right?
I was doing this back in the 80s.
Right. You weren't calling it account based. I mean,
we just
calling it all sorts of stuff.
We called them whales.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's a big company that.
Well, and I think maybe today, maybe instead of saying it's a big company, it's more, it's like, okay, it's a company that's meaningful to you.
Yeah, that's identifiable, and you could target it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly right. Because I think I think it would be odd if I had, see, because almost every client I've ever talked to, if I say to them, who are the 6 most important targets for you out there? I don't think I've ever had anybody say to me, gee, I don't know. I mean, they all know who would be the best targets. Those are the whales.
Right. Yep. And it can be large, small, and it doesn't have to be 6. It can be hundreds and hundreds if you have the staff or the wherewithal or the desire to do it. I have examples in my past of a startup company with $4,000 in revenue doing this. I have $4 million and I have $4 billion. One of my clients right now has for years had a very targeted account-based strategy. And in their case, they're not even necessary, with the exception of national accounts, they're not even the salespeople for most of these. They actually do the research on the accounts and people and turn it over to independent dealers who then sell.
Okay.
And why not?
Yeah.
They're just increasing their odds of landing business.
See, I think, when I said at the beginning where I say, I have kind of a beef to pick with this. See, because for me, it's sort of like, number one, it's not new. All right. You made that clear.
Right.
And yet, in today's world, we have these agencies that are out there saying, oh, you need to learn this new thing, ABM, and we're going to help you do that. Right. And I'm like, what is this? Don't talk like that. But the other thing is that it seems to me like it's a strategy that every company should have.
Absolutely. I agree with you too about that. It is sort of annoying because if you actually Google ABM and look at some of the results, you're going to see like HubSpot come up and Marketo, because they're so good at content that it rises to the top of Google. And if you look at it, their definition is exactly like ours, except it says that it's automated, that it's an automated way to contact targeted accounts and keep in touch with them. Well, the truth of the matter is account-based marketing can be, we've talked about digital and analog before on this show, and it can be lots of great digital stuff. And we're not saying that's wrong, but it can also be events. You can target specific people with events.
Oh,
you can target people with direct mail and gift. All sorts of ways to reach people.
Yeah,
if know them, if they're identifiable.
Yeah, I'll give you 2 examples from a trade show perspective. One, I was working with Emerson Electric, and we went to an air conditioning event, and we targeted only 50 people. 50 companies.
Right.
Specifically 50 companies to come and see them. And this was a big air conditioning event, and we designed the booth to where the booth was closed. And it was, and the only people that were allowed in were those 50 people. And that was it. Right. And then similarly at the sporting goods manufacturing show years ago, I was working with Nike, and Nike built an enormous exhibit, a huge exhibit. Okay. And then on the first day of the show, they sent out invitations to their 700 top customers, and they said, you can come in as an invited guest on the first day of the show, and you are the only people who will be allowed in the booth on the first day of the show, and so you'll get first crack at all our new stuff. And so on the first day of the show, they had security guards that posted at the entrances, and if you were not one of the 700, you did not get in. So
that's account-based marketing.
That's account-based marketing. That's exactly what that is.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Now, on the digital side, I do want to give some credit to some of the new tools, because you wouldn't think that advertising could be so targeted that it could be used for ABM. But LinkedIn advertising, you can go into company manager and then campaign manager, and you can actually target specific companies and titles within there. And arguably that's part of an ABM strategy. And so that's on the table now. And that wasn't always on the table.
And I definitely do not disagree with that. That makes it more efficient. But at the same time, that's just progress. Okay, that's just progress, right? It's just ABM instead of people, ABM, traveling by horse and buggy.
That was a thing. I'm sure that was a thing.
Go see specific customers, right? And to where then they get up on trains and they're music man selling musical instruments to a specific town or something like that, and then airplanes and then fax machines and then long distance calling that doesn't cost. I mean, that's all the tools are just getting more and more efficient as they get, and that's where we are now. Is the tools are much more efficient now and give us a better way of communicating with them, of keeping information, tracking them, all that stuff. But
right.
It's still.
But you know what the common thing is that I just realized is that even when they were writing their target list on parchment with a ink pen, or you're writing it into a spreadsheet or into your CRM system or whatever, you actually have to make a list.
Right. Somehow
you have to make a list of who is in that. What are the accounts in your ABM? And then who do you want to call on? Who do you want to target? And sometimes that takes some research. It's sort of like old fashioned roll up your sleeves, blocking and tackling. This is what you got to do.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you have to go to the library.
Coming up against this gray area between marketing and sales. And, it doesn't matter what you call this, whether it's in the sales camp or the marketing camp.
Right.
People will fight over whose responsibility it is and who's going to do it, but it has to be done.
Yeah.
And then now there's lots of tools that'll help.
I mean, let them duke out the attribution part. The point is that you got to get them in the funnel, and so identifying them is the big thing, because that's step one, is identifying. I call them the moose, right? And identifying them, like even in your book, when you went back into Paleolithic to, I don't know whenever it was.
Yes, the Stone Age.
And they had a target. Okay. And they learned who their target
did. The river people.
That's right.
The mountain people had to go trade with the river people.
Yeah.
And they actually had a couple people in mind.
Yeah.
That was ABM.
Yeah. And that was ABM. So job one is to make the list. All right. Job one is to make the list of who, is to know and if you don't know your industry that well, then you need to get out there and learn. Okay. Because you either need to go to trade shows or you need to study those things, because you need to go learn. Don't just start scatter shooting, shotgun blasting, against the wall and hope that something sticks, and that you hope that in there are some big whales. No, it's not that hard to get that information.
Right. I've got a question for you. Once you sell to a customer, does ABM stop?
Well, actually, I think there's something in between first. Okay. And that is because a big part of ABM then is once you've identified, ABC Corporation. Well, now you got to find out, all right, who in ABC Corporation do you need to be, contacting?
And it might be multiple people.
And in many cases it will be. Many cases it will be multiple people. So then again, you've got a situation where you've got to target them. Now, and here's where, me and personas start to separate, because I think it's very difficult for us to, you know, identify and describe one person that would be our target, and that same definition would apply to this company and this company and this company and this company. I think there's a better way of describing it. Instead of describing the person by their age and gender and education and all that sort of, the bottom line is, what role do they play in the decision-making process?
Right. Influencer, decision maker,
user, check writer. I often tell people, look, you have the decision maker. Somebody's going to be a decision maker in there. You have the person who writes the checks. You have the person who uses the product or service that you're describing, and that's a minimum of 3 or 4 people right there.
Right. And those are different strategies because they're different messages and they're probably different techniques or media to reach them and communicate with them. But I think when you do identify those people, then you have at least 3 jobs. One is you need to get their attention. Second is you need to build a relationship with them. And the third is that you need to be top of mind when they're ready to buy.
On the mind of the prospect when the prospect is ready to buy. Exactly right. Really, really important. And but I don't need an avatar. I just need to know their roles. Okay. Yeah. Do they have a role in the decision-making process? And they could be a man, they could be a woman, they could be a chimpanzee. I don't know what they could be. All right. But you don't need a persona for that.
Right. I guess if you're selling to a zoo, food to a zoo, the chimpanzee could be the user and therefore could be a part of the ABM strategy. So
that's a very good point.
It's not that far-fetched.
Thank you for straightening me out on that.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. So let's say that you go through your strategy and you do actually get a sale out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Does account-based marketing continue with the customer in your mind?
I would say it that's a great question. My first reaction to that is no. Because once you're in the company, once you identify the company to identify the people. Step one is the company and then the people. Yep. Once you've got the company and the company is on your list, as long as they're still, from a company perspective, have a need for your product or service, then they just stay. They permanently stay a prospect.
So I have just to throw a wrench in this. I've talked to some people who are adamant that once you sell, that as long as you can cross-sell and upsell, then even a customer should be in your ABM. It's a different kind of communication because they're a customer, but you're trying to retain them and upsell and cross-sell and things like that. So that's interesting.
That's the person, not the company. I completely agree that the person, it's always the cycle, or the circle, cycle, whatever you want to call it. That once they become a customer, you noticed earlier I said they're always a prospect. See, once they're a customer, do you think for cross sell? So there's a group of people that we're trying to influence to sell. And it could be user, it could be influencer, it could be decision maker, writer of the check. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then they buy and they're the customer. Does it automatically just go down to that one person who wrote the check or made the decision? No, I think everybody stays in the loop.
Okay. And if everybody stays in the loop, can it still be ABM?
But they are no, ABM to me is identifying a company. That's what ABM to me is.
It's the first. So ABM to you is the first part. Is it not the entire process of marketing?
No, because that's just marketing. That's marketing. That's what we need to do all the time.
This is what we need to do all the time.
We need to do that all the time. once we identify who that person is that has a role, now we're marketing to an individual, which is ultimately what marketing is all about. ABM, in my opinion, ABM to me is identification. Identifying the company that I want to sell to.
Okay. I think I have a little broader definition, because I agree that it's marketing once you identify the person, but I think I could still call it ABM as I'm marketing to them, because I'm doing things particularly for that account. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, no. I completely agree. Once you are working with somebody, it's marketing to that person. You're still communicating with it. If you're communicating with people, in a manner of continuing the relationship and everything like that, that's marketing. Even if you've been dealing with them for years, you're still having that communication with them that can be identified, defined as marketing. Okay. So I think we're more or less on the same page.
Let me ask you one other question. What do you think people struggle with the most? What we just went through and talked through doesn't sound all that complicated.
No.
Or a problem. But what do you think people struggle with when it comes to ABM? Have you come across people that are not executing it correctly?
I think people say, I don't understand ABM. And then I kind of describe it the way you and I just talk about it, and they go, well, what's so special about that? Right. And I go, nothing.
Nothing.
It's not. It's just that, again, like with the personas where somebody says, oh, we're going to, we can sell you a 2-day workshop for $25,000 to help you identify your, and define your personas, and it's sort of like,
I guess what you're saying is that the term ABM is clever marketing in and of itself.
I think it's clever. Yes, I think it's clever marketing. Just like, and
if we were clever, we would come up with, the next ABM, and really it would only just be some words that we could find. And then I think we can get HubSpot and Marketo to spearhead it.
That's right. I don't think
let's do it.
I think and this is not just because I'm old. It's because I'm experienced, and you are too. This is not rocket science. Okay.
True. Yes. If you were 20 something and you actually have an undergraduate degree in PR or digital marketing or something like that, and you graduate and you've done some internships, and then you're starting your first job and you're in there, you don't know anything but all these electronic, all the tools, all the digital stuff, all the names, the logo splashes and that. And you read all these articles about ABM, and you don't have 30 years of background to know. You're not even 30 years old. So I'm not blaming those people at all. I know you're not either, but it is interesting to, if any of the people are listening that are at that stage of their career, to say, people are going to tell you that a lot of things are now like sort of expected. And, oh, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And, you can apply common sense to all of these things. You don't have to do anything in marketing. What you have to do is what makes sense to enable effective selling, really, in the end.
Yeah, that's, marketing is enabling selling. Okay. Or as even some of the big time people who are direct response marketers, and I tend to lean in that area, is that marketing is just sales without the face-to-face. It's you are getting as close to the sale as possible through marketing. And sometimes you can get the sale.
Right. Why else are we doing it? And I've talked to people that are sort of fresh out of school or young in their careers, and they're well, no, we're not selling. We're not trying to sell. We're trying to gain awareness.
Yeah.
Or build our brand.
Right.
Okay. Why are you trying to do that? Well, eventually so we can sell more. So honestly, everything we do is so
to sell more. That's what it's all about. How does this help you sell more? Okay. And you can call it something new. You can say, and like you said way earlier, the thing about ABM is that is the main thing they're hanging their hat on is they're saying technology enables you to do all of this other stuff. That's why it's called ABM. No, it's not. That's why it's called ABM. It's just that technology enables you to do stuff more efficiently. That has always been called marketing.
Right. And by the way, nobody is trying to say, anybody that's listening, nobody is trying to say everything's about sales and we're trying to rip people off or take advantage of people. Just the opposite. If we have something that's not of use to anybody, no one's going to buy it. I've heard that when the value is obvious, the decision is easy.
That's right. That's right. That's very, very.
I've heard
true.
that from someone.
I've heard that somewhere, and that's a good place for us to end this episode, talking about ABM and whatever else is underneath it and all that sort of stuff.
ISBM or
ICBMs,
intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Yeah.
Turn your marketing into an ICBM, an effective missile.
That's right.
For selling.
Right. Yeah, because the more efficient and effective you can be, then the more successful you should be if you got something people want to buy.
And it's a global strategy because it's intercontinental. So
that's right. It is.
So there it is. That's the next.
It's not inter. It's not intercontinental. It's inter.
Inter. Exactly. Yes. Yep. Okay. On that note, we should sign off.
Take us away, sir.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast with the Dave Loomis, that's myself, and not the rock star, Steve Miller. Join us again soon. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast, the source for B2B marketing and sales insight. If you enjoyed the podcast, please be sure to subscribe and leave these old guys a 5-star rating. Check the show notes for any links and contact information. You can always contact us by going to b2bmarketingsalespodcast.com. Thank you, and keep on marketing, keep on selling.